Some tenants dream of the day that they get the key to their first home, but sometimes we wonder whether we should pack our things and move in or become landlords ourselves. Property Apprentice Debbie Roberts is here to talk to us more about that. Hi Debbie, thanks for being with us.
Do you know what the problem is? I wrote that.
Yes, it is.
I think there's a few spelling mistakes in
Hands
there.
off my stuff.
Sorry.
Debbie, if you've got a deposit, what are the factors you should think about whether you buy your own first home or whether you buy an investment property?
There's actually quite a few things to think about before you make that decision. First of all, you need to understand the difference between how much you're paying in rent and how much it could cost you to own your own home. Most of the places across New Zealand, market rent is not enough to cover the mortgage and all of the other costs associated with owning a property. So it is something that you need to weigh up against the other. You know, can you afford the extra cost, especially with interest rates on the increase again? Although they're still lower than the long-term average, I'd like to just get that right.
Yeah. Because sometimes people will look and go, right, I can't really afford to buy where I want to buy, say in the suburb I've grown up in. I can't afford to buy near mum and dad, but I can afford to buy in this town outside of the city and have people there. But what you're saying is it's not as straightforward.
It's not always as straightforward, because the other thing that you need to take into account is where your deposit's coming from. You know, if your deposit to purchase a property is coming from savings or the bank of mum and dad by way of an equity gift, for example, then you can buy either a first home or an investment property. But if you're relying on KiwiSaver or the first home grant or first home loans, you have to be able to live in that property for 6 months. So obviously, if you're buying a property outside of the area that you work in, it's going to be pretty hard if that's not too close. You know, that'd be one heck of a commute if you're living in Auckland and you're buying something in Invercargill, for example.
Plus, you need a bigger deposit, don't you, for a rental?
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
you do. So the deposit restrictions from the Reserve Bank at the moment, and these aren't permanent, and I think once house prices get back to the sustainable levels, there's a good chance that the Reserve Bank will lift these restrictions. But at the moment, home buyers, you need a 20% deposit. There are, 10% of all bank loans are allowed to be to people above 80% lending. So you could get above 80% lending, meaning you'd need less than a 20% deposit. New builds are exempt from the Reserve Bank restrictions as well. So you could potentially get up to 95% lending if you're buying a new build for a first home. For investment properties, you need a 40% deposit at the moment. Normally, without the Reserve Bank restrictions in place, it's a 20% deposit. If you're buying a new builds are exempt from the Reserve Bank restrictions, so 20% deposit required for those.
Yeah, so quite a big difference, hey? So the advice really is to make sure that you have done your numbers, you know what the rules are, and then you can play the game.
Absolutely, and if you're going to look at buying an investment property, for crying out loud, learn about it first, because there's a lot more involved than just buying a home.
Yeah, that's Debbie Roberts, co-founder of Property Apprentice. Thanks to our partners at Property Apprentice. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you.